What's going on, Tamers? East here. So I was watching the Raid and Trade Online Regionals for Europe. Shoutouts to the UK gang over there for holding down the stream. But I was watching some of the games and I realized like there are decks that I kind of know what their general idea is, but I don't actually know how they get there. For example, I was watching the Mirage Loop, like the Memory Loop game, and I realized like I know what the deck is supposed to do, but like when they're playing out their turns, I was like, what is going on now? Like, you got something coming out of sources, something coming out back in. You're like swapping sources. You've got Homer out there in the mix. You've got the Sayo and Kotamer. And I just got really discombobulated. You ever like have that feeling where like you probably should know more about a deck like that, but you don't? Do you guys have any decks like that that you feel that way about? I think another one for me is probably Lucemon. Like, I know generally what the Lucemon cards do, but like how they operate during the course of a game, like what they're trying to do, I'm just kind of like, I hope I kill you first, you know. But yeah, maybe we'll do a series where we kind of like do some deep dives in some of those decks. If you have any ideas, again, let me know in the comments below. Pushing that content aside for now and focusing in on this content right here, we're looking at the 4th week of events for the BT19 Xros Evolution set over here in Japan and the rest of Asia. And while things have been notably quiet this week, we did have the results from the DC1 Grand Prix that happened in Fukuoka last weekend. Actually, now that I think about it, that event wasn't supposed to happen. Oh, that's right. So the DC1 Fukuoka event was actually supposed to be the first one like 3 months ago at this point. But because we had a hurricane or typhoon, depending on where you are in the world, they actually pushed it back and made it the last one after the Tokyo event, which was at the start of October. That being said, let's take a look at some event results, a couple of key takeaways, and a closer look at some of the decks that topped this week and at Fukuoka. I guess those are the same thing though. Next section, Seiji. So as we dive into last week's results, you'll notice that most of Asia's become very Sakurious right now, with the Sakimon Ruin Mode Loop deck gaining more traction as the weeks go on. It seems like though the only decks that it can't put to sleep under those turn after turn blankets of 5k DP are the super aggressive decks like Red Hybrid, Luga Takamikazuchi, as well as Lord Nightmon. Outside of that though, not too much else to talk about. I think lots of one-of tops from decks that I think that people have established before that are either decent or better. And I think the reason that we have such low turnouts this week is, again, just my guess, I'm spitballing here, that most folks went to the DC1 Grand Prix in Fukuoka, which is pretty far from Tokyo and I guess most of other places that aren't in the south of Japan, and so after that they kind of like just chilled for the rest of the week. That being said though, I do want to take a look at some of the Fukuoka events, so let's actually go ahead and take a look at some of those now. So just to give some background here on the DC1 Grand Prix, it's actually 2 events in one, where you have 2 tournaments that are essentially 144 people, and then from there I think the top 16 from each side advance. And Bandai made this really weird decision to tell us what the top 32 decks were. Unfortunately, they did not split them by, you know, the Tournament A and Tournament B. So we have the whole list together, but I'm not sure what they look like or how the story would change if they were presented separately. That being said though, I think we can paint a pretty clear picture of some of the stronger decks in the game right now. Things like Lugamon taking huge spots in the top 32 of both those, as well as things like Ancient Greymon and surprisingly Dominimon and the Angels. Now I have heard a couple of folks talk about this deck, because it does seem like Lord Nightmon has some trouble getting through the Angels, because Dominimon can just protect everything and they also have barriers, so the piercing never really happens and then you can just swarm them with numbers. I think a lot of players that I've talked to in the past have said that Dominimon is a card that has a lot of potential, and maybe this card is worth exploring now that things like Lord Nightmon, who are trying to just actively destroy the field and build up their own board, are starting to get popular. Outside of that though, you got a nice even split between some of the other crazy decks like Mirage Galgamon, Lord Nightmon himself, the Sakimon deck we talked about just a moment ago, as well as Omnimon Ace. Now, I swear to God, every time I see Omnimon Ace, it's like 1 or 2 guys. It's the same like 1 or 2 guys doing it all the time. I need to take a look at if that's actually the case. It might just be like 2 guys just holding down the entire fort for everybody. And then after that, just lots of one-off representations from things like Tyrant Kabuterimon, Purple Hybrid, Belphemon, surprisingly. Other things like Virus Imperiodramon alongside, and this one shocked me, Edemon? Okay, yeah. I guess that's the future we live in now. Thank you, Shoto Kazama and Mother D Reaper. And I'm almost positive, like 99.95% sure that Shakomon deck on the very bottom right there is a guy called Hia who plays my locals. He's the fellow who created this. He used to be an Alphamon player, but he created this like black, yellow, I don't know, Frankenstein of a deck that uses Shakomon and some of the black yellow engine at the bottom, and some of the crazy like dual color like black and or yellow cards to level 6s, things like Black War Greymon for Tamer Hate and multiple unsuspensions, lots of just destruction effects as well. Yeah, this, I'm pretty sure that's actually him. Now that I think about it, and longtime watchers fact check me on this one, I'm pretty sure that I've actually shown off that Shakomon deck on the channel before. And for all those folks who are typing in the comments right now, which video was it? might I suggest subscribing to the channel so you wouldn't miss it? Damn, I'm kind of impressed with myself. I moonwalked into that segue. That was smooth, like Olympic level curling smooth. All right, let's go East. Okay, I see you. I'll see you level up. You know, I said to myself, if we're going to take a look at the Fukuoka one, what the hell? Let's take a look at the Tokyo DC1 Grand Prix as well. This is what you're seeing here on the screen of the top 32 decks from the Tokyo DC1 that happened at the start of this month, where the set had just released. BT19 had just come out. And while I think the results are pretty different, I think you can definitely see some trends. Purple Hybrid and Red Hybrid, super offensive decks, were able to mow down most of the stuff in the game at that point, with the exception of maybe Magnamon, with the defensive wall that he is. You could see like the start of the Lord Knightmon army rising up there, and right below him was Leviamon. I think at this point, the decks were so similar, Leviamon and Lord Knightmon, that I think some of the, or most of the Leviamon players kind of just swapped over. Of course, Fina Lugomon, Takemikazuchi eating up all those purple player wins by letting them do half their work for them and mill their cards into the trash. And right below that are lots of the one-ofs, things like Mirage Galgamon, Ancient Garurumon, who we still saw back in the day, the one-of the Angels deck. What you see down on the bottom left there is actually Vaccine Armor. It is like the older shell of Vaccine Armor, which is kind of cool to see. And then right next to that is actually like just vaccines, and I think the top end there, the Patamon is what the representation of this is. The top end was like Venusmon, so it was like mostly yellow stuff into Venusmon to stall and then like close out the game. You also had things like Tyrant, 7 Great Demon Lords, Omni Ace, again I'm pretty sure that's one of the two guys, and Mother D Reaper, alongside some of the new Xros Evolution decks like Blue Flare as well as Crossheart. So thinking about the decks to show off this week, I figured since the DC1 and Fukuoka just finished up, and it's not one but actually 2 tournaments, I figured we could just show off both of those decks. So this is actually the winner of the group, I think B it was? Group A? It's Group A, Group B. This one of the groups, but Tyrant Kabuterimon. And you know, every time I think about building the green deck, I think to myself, I need to put in like one of these, like 2 of these, just like to check for the matchup. And this deck list right here just takes all of that like thinking and throws it in the trash. It's like, take all the green tech slop you have, throw it away, and just pick and focus on a super rigid game plan. The great thing about this list is that there's not really many surprises. It's just the most consistent stuff you've seen all combined into one huge uniform block. I love the idea of the Pomumons at the level 3 being able to shut off so many decks from just playing Digimon by effects right now, especially Lord Knightmon, especially things like the Angels, etc, etc. At the level 4s, they forego using any of the Kabuterimon cards and just go straight in on the Stingmon and Kawagamon, as well as of course the 4 of the Blade Kawagamon. The Stingmon is so great because for 1 evolve and that nice +1 in inheritance to basically refund his cost, this is almost a 0 cost card. The biggest surprise for me looking at this list was of course the level 6s, where they run 4 of the Shivamon Ace. I think lots of players maybe try to put in like a copy or 2 of like regular Hercules Kabuterimon, or you know, some other book like Grand Kawagamon, but then no, this list focuses only on Shivamon Ace and the Tyrant Kabuterimon. The Shivamon's so great as a way to blast, and either if you have 3 security, you can rest a Digimon and then give something plus 3000 in order to make your Tyrant even bigger. Or if you have 3 or less security, you can just bottom deck something that's rested on the field, and if that's the case, you can just rest their attacking Digimon. And the fact that it has that same effect where when it's rested, it's not affected by your opponent's Digimon's effects, fits in right alongside the Tyrant, because if you have that on the board and a Tyrant, then you can always just redirect it, either using the Izzy Tamer or the Metal Life Kawagamon, or you can potentially blast evolve it into a Paladin mode, and then your opponent's attacking, they lose that stat because you're bigger than them, and that's it. And so if you're a green player right now and you're kind of down about your color in the game, maybe this is the answer. Just take all of the tech slop, throw it away, and just pick the most focused, good stuffs you can find and just put it all together in one block. Don't worry about the text, just have a game plan and execute. Now, all that shape up, cut all the unnecessary flubber, get super lean green stuff that I just mentioned, throw that all out the window for yellow. Yellow just takes the exact opposite approach. This is the second winner of the DC1 Grand Prix in Fukuoka, and as you can see, every tech card under the sun is here. And you know, you think to yourself, I want to make sure that I have a way to use my Dark Seraphimon to get the free like 1 cost evolve. I just throw in 1 Seraphimon. I miss the good old days of Magna Garurumon and the Vaccine Armor Engine. Throw in a Rapidmon. I mean, this list really does it all. Oh god. The only thing that it does seem to do really well though is focus on the cards that it needs absolutely in 4 ofs, all of them. Things like the Patamon here for the free evolves and the memory gain. You've got the Gatomon as well, who has Barrier and the ability to also gain memory alongside the Patamon. You've also got things like the Ace, Magna Angemon, and Angemon at 4 apiece. I think most players are always trying to find like how to split these two, but this guy said screw it, put them all in, and also just give me a couple sprinkles of Magna Angemon on the side who can evolve off my security stack. Even the eggs here have a kind of strange split here with the 3 of Tokomon for card draw and then the 2 of the QBmon, who lets you slot in the angels underneath your security stack by picking up one on the top of your security. And I like this only because this deck does want to make sure that it has targets whenever you reach your Diminimon and Magna Angemon, where your Diminimon lets you pull something out of security that's a level 5 or lower. And then if you happen to have the Magnamon in there, you can immediately evolve that into another angel on the level 6 side. The Pillowmon also fulfills the same role as the Pomomon in the green list we just took a look at by stopping your opponent from playing effects. So this plus like the protection that Diminimon provides plus barrier really makes this deck a tough matchup for Lord Nightmon. Looking at the tamers, you've got some pretty interesting choices here, especially something like the BT19 Kari tamer, who can spread around security attack minus whenever you pull stuff off security, which is also nice. And you also got the dual TK and Kari tamer, who lets you just give Digimon barrier, and then whenever you evolve into an angel, you get some memory back in that case. My guess is this deck wants you to kind of wade out into the deep waters of late turns with it, and then once it has its board established and you're kind of still trying to find a way to like close out the game and get past this huge angel army, they just final Excalibur you for like a bajillion checks. So 2 different colors, 2 different ways of thinking. Green players, it's cutting season. Yellow players, it's bulking season. So each week I allow my champion. Oh, I am very far from the mic. Holy crap! I gotta deep throat this thing. All right, let's try again. So each week I allow my champion level and higher YouTube members to vote on decks they want to see featured in these meta report videos. And this week they surprisingly chose Zafagamon. I didn't think he was that popular, but you know, Liberator protagonist be damned. That being said, if you want to vote on decks that you'd like to see featured in these meta report videos, as well as some other cool perks and bonuses, consider becoming a champion level member or higher. And with that said, let's take a look at Zafagamon. So like I mentioned before, for green decks, it is absolutely cutting season, and this Zafagamon deck here is no exception. This thing is surviving off of chicken and broccoli 5 days a week. Ooh, chicken, never mind. Cannibalism. Anyway, I love that he's showing off this deck because for players just getting into the game who grab like a Zafagamon starter deck and want to know what their options are, this shows that you can grab maybe 2 starter decks and a couple of cards and you're already in a really good place. Outside of the starter deck Terramon and the EX7 Terramon that are level 3s, this deck also includes a couple copies of the Mujabon from the starter deck, who is a great card for being able to get a bigger Digimon on board. Whenever he's rested, you can give a bird or a Vortex Warrior on the field plus 3,000 for the turn, so he's a great target for some of your resting effects later on in the deck. Seems like this list here is a little bit more aggressive than some of the Zafagamon decks we've seen in the past, where they run 4 of the promo, who, if you don't remember, whenever he evolves, you can rest a Digimon, and then he can gain plus 3,000 for the turn, and then I think that if Shoto's out, he gets Piercing, so you can become aggressive from as fast as the level 4s. Grabbing a couple copies of the EX7 Grand Galemon, who can rest a Digimon on board, but if you rest one of your own, he can become untouchable by your opponent's Digimon's effects for a turn, is amazing. This card is so good, probably the better of the 2 Grand Galemons that are out right now. And what I really love about this deck is that they include the one of the Rapidmon. I love this tech choice. It's a little bit more of a costly evolve for a green card because you're not really coming from the Rapidmon line, but this guy letting you de-Digivolve is so good for the deck. And like I mentioned before, for the level 6s, if you did get 2 of these starter decks, then you've got all the Zafagamon that you need from there, and you can just grab 2 of the Zafagamon from EX7, who are basically like your removal cards for this deck, like your heavy removal cards, and that's pretty much your level 6 lines already filled out. The options here are really reminiscent of the Tyrant deck that we just looked at before. You've got the 4 trainings, 2 memory boosts, and then 2 scrambles. That fills out pretty much all you need. This one puts in the one of the Anemone Embrace, which is a really great resting card for a pretty low price. And if you manage to hit an Ace Digimon with this, you can pretty much get your memory refunded back to you from the overflow. And finally, taking a look at the Tamers, it feels like every deck in the game right now wants a piece of the EX7 Shoto Kazama, but this deck here takes the best advantage of him, giving you not only blocker, but also piercing, and your Vortex Warriors the ability to unsuspend at the end of the turn, meaning they can make additional checks after they attack once. So if you are one of those fantastic folks just hopping into the Digimon card game, 2 Zafagamon decks and a couple cards is really all you need, and this can be yours as well. And yeah, I think that pretty much wraps everything up in this one. I'm gonna get out of here and go figure out how Mirage Loop and Lucemon actually work. Let me know what decks you guys want to take a deeper dive into as well in the comments below. And like I said, I'm gonna get out of here. Before you get out of here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Did it. Oh, I'm so nice, bro. Buzzer beater, hit it at the last second. Nice 3 from half court. I'm a G.